Welcome to Federation CJ's 360 podcast, the pulse of Montreal's Jewish community.
This is episode 42, recorded on March 11th, 2025. I'm Glenn J. Nashin, broadcasting live from our brand new Studio 5. In this episode, elections are coming, missions to Israel are back. So you want to be a doctor? Kanye West protests musical at the Siegel Center. Amy Fish launches 1 in 6 million. And one more thing from your ear. And it all begins right now. I'm joined in Studio 5 now with Paula Samuel. Hi, Paula.
Hi. Isn't this an exciting day? We have 3 cameras pointed at us, Glenn, which means not only is this podcast going to be available for audio, but it's going to be on YouTube from now on. People can watch it.
On YouTube on the Federation CJ channel.
That's right. So I'm excited. How does it feel to be looked at by 3 different cameras?
Yeah, it's a little strange for me, but I'll quickly get used to it.
Yeah.
You've had a lot more experience at this.
That I have. I'm in studio. I'm in my happy place. We have such a jam-packed podcast today, Glenn. Lots of interesting guests. As we mentioned earlier, we'll be diving into the new missions to Israel, chatting about a new book, a new musical, and the looming federal election.
There's a lot going on. We're going to be focusing on 2 very different missions to Israel, one of them being the Yom Ha'atzmaut, or Israel Independence Day mission, leaving on April 28th, and that will be accompanied by Alain and Raquel Look. They lost their son tragically, as you recall, on October 7th. So Raquel will be in studio to tell us a little bit more about that experience. And then there's the doctor's mission, the Association des Médecins Juifs de Québec, and we're going to speak to Dr. Lior Bibas about that in a little bit as well.
And you know what I'm really excited about is the Siegel Center. We'll have Lisa Rubin, artistic director, coming in to chat with us about this really interesting play that they're putting on. And it's about, not starring, but about an artist that we all know, that we all don't want, it makes me recoil even saying his name. It's a Kanye West protest play, which I find super interesting timing because, you know, especially these days, we're talking about a lot about allyship between the Black community, between the Jewish community. And this is about an allyship of a different kind. It's really sort of how Kanye West's rabid anti-Semitism has impacted both communities. Mm-hmm. So it'll be really be interesting to have a chat a bit with Lisa Rubin, the artistic director, about it, why they chose it, what this all means. So I'm really looking forward to that. And this weekend, the Liberal Party voted in a new leader, Mark Carney. And by the time people listen to the podcast or watch it, he'll be the PM. He's not Prime Minister as of today, but he will be as of tomorrow, Thursday. And there'll probably be a new election that called. So
we're going to talk politics without getting too political, because that's not what we do here.
But before we don't get political, I do want to say one political thing. Since we both watched the Liberal leadership, how much did you love our former PM, Jean Chrétien?
Oh, my God. I mean, I don't care what colors, what stripe, but at 91 years old, to have that gusto and to have that fervor for our country is amazing. I hope I have that when I'm 91, that's for sure.
And you know what? I bet you that if he ran again, he'd win at 91.
And he didn't grab anyone by the neck.
Which is always good.
But what better time to reach out to the Federation advocacy arm, which is CIJA, the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs. And we're going to welcome in the Vice President of External Affairs and the General Counsel for CIJA, Richard Marceau, from the nation's capital, to tune us in a little bit more as to the landscape that's going on now for the Jewish community right across the country.
Yeah, I think we all have a lot of questions about this upcoming election because there's so much noise, right? And he'll help us unpack it and really understand what's going on.
Exactly. So stick around. We're going to be right back and on to the podcast. We have a very special guest joining us today. It's Richard Marceau. Richard brings a wealth of experience as a former member of parliament, a lawyer, a published author, and a passionate human rights activist. Richard, your journey is truly inspiring, from your time in the House of Commons to your advocacy work for CIJA, the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs. You've dedicated your career to making a positive impact on the Jewish community and beyond. So welcome back to Studio, Richard. You were actually our first guest on our French episode back in April 2024. So it's good to have you back.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Welcome.
So, Richard, the political landscape is shifting rapidly across our country. And although we don't get political within the Jewish federations, we do work closely with CIJA. to keep our community informed and well educated on the political landscape and the issues. So that's why you're here. Let's explore together the upcoming federal elections and their potential impact on the Jewish community. Why don't we start with what's on people's minds, actually, anti-Semitism and foreign policy towards Israel. I mean, that's really quintessential to the Jewish community from coast to coast to coast. So maybe share some of your insights, Richard, your perspectives that will help us better understand and have a deeper understanding of the challenges that will lie ahead when voters go to the polls and and reflect upon things as Jewish Canadians.
Well, I think that's an essential question. This is the first federal election since October 7th, since we saw not only the attack on Israel by Hamas and then by Hezbollah in Iran and the Houthis, and all the havoc and the death that were caused in Israel that impacted us here, but also after this tsunami of Jew hatred. In Montreal, our schools being shot at, demonstrations in the streets that are filled with hate, the harassment on campus, et cetera, et cetera. So it is, and I know it's a cliche, but this time it really, really is true. It is possibly one of the most important federal election in our lifetime. And that is why we as a community, as the Jewish community, need to show up. And what I mean by showing up, it's not only voting, but it's to get engaged. It is to talk to the candidates. It is to not wait till the candidates come to us, but go to them so that our voices are heard. Because when you're silent, people don't pay attention to you. It's time to speak up.
When people say to you, well, like seriously, at this point, what difference is it actually going to make? Because we've seen, where we've been yelling and screaming since, like you said, October 7th, and there's very little movement. So what do you say to people in terms of, yes, it's important to vote. We know that. It's a huge election post October 7th, but how to make the point that their vote actually really can change things?
Well, it's not only the vote, but it's also, as I said, engagement. Like it's now candidates will be asking for our votes. Like they'll be knocking on doors and coming to our communities and going to our clubs and say, I want your support. And this support should not be given freely. Like it's time to tie people down with commitments. We've seen a deterioration between in the relationship between Israel and Canada. We've seen that rise of anti-Semitism. We've seen our community feeling less safe. So now it's a time to say, okay, given all those things, what are you going to do, candidate X, to make sure that we repair the alliance between Israel and Canada? What are you going to do, candidate Y, to ensure that our community security is ensured? What are you going to do to make sure that this tsunami of anti-Semitism is combated, and what are you going to specifically advocate for? Now it's a time to go and ask the candidates to commit to specific things. And if they don't deserve our votes. That's the bottom line. So get engaged, meet with people, push them. There should be no free walk here.
Richard, how does that engagement take place when the vast majority of the Jewish community across our country lives in very few ridings? So how does that engagement work at a national level?
The polls are certainly tightening. So the difference between who's the government, which party will form the government, and will it be a majority or minority government, might come down to a very limited number of polls. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, Jews are not alone. We have allies, and not only groups, but Canadians in general. I am convinced that the silent majority of Canadians do not want to see what we've seen in the streets, the call for violence, the flying of terrorist flags in our streets, this shooting on schools. Even if you're not Jewish, you do not want to see that in Canada. So bringing those factors to the forefront of the election will be crucial, and it will be more challenging than we thought about maybe a month ago because of a certain president south of the border, which upended the entire election. It is still important for us, and more important than ever, to make sure that our issues, the issue of security, the issue of anti-Semitism, the issue of international relations, specifically here, the relationship with the only democratic state in the Middle East, are part of the discussion and will help decide the election.
I'm curious as to, to me, the biggest thing, certainly living in Montreal, has been what's been going on campus, what's been going on our streets, the constant manifestation, and all the noise, and when you speak to officials, they'll say, oh, well, that's the municipal level. Oh, well, that's the mayor. Oh, the province has jurisdiction over that. Oh, and so what are the questions? How do you equip people with questions to ask on the federal level when they get that, if they get an answer going, well, it's the mayor that had to decide that, or it's University of McGill that had jurisdiction over that to call in the cops, or whatever it is that the answer is. How do you translate that and empower people to demand that the federal government or the federal the candidates say we can, have that conversation to bring it down to having more power over the local aspect of it?
So that buck passing is really one of the things that irks me the most. So yes, there needs to be people working together at different levels, but simply pushing saying that's somebody else's fault is not enough. There are things that Ottawa certainly can do. The first thing is we should for sure make sure that the glorification of terrorism, that is flying Hezbollah or Hamas's flags in our streets, should be completely forbidden. There's work that could be done with what we call bubble legislation to make sure that there's a zone around Jewish institutions and other communities' institutions, by the way, within which demonstrations cannot happen. Now, in Montreal, the situation is different from the rest of Canada because there's been injunctions granted, but we've seen that it's not enough. So that is another issue that can be pushed to make sure that the fact that hate crimes units should be well financed and resourced across the country, and there could be federal money there to help municipal and provincial police forces to have access to that. We need to have our police forces better trained on what is anti-Semitism. Because a lot of police officers don't know what anti-Semitism is, and that has let some people off the hook after saying things that should not have been said. So there's a variety of things that should be engaged at the federal level. And let's not forget the last thing is that there is a role as the federal national government to give the ton, donner le ton. And when Ottawa sleeps at the switch, so to speak, it sends a bad signal across the country. So it's time to bring anti-Semitism and the fight against anti-Semitism at the top of the agenda, because it's not only about the Jews, but it's about Canada in its entirety.
Richard, that sounds like a tall order for a community that essentially forms 1.2% of the Canadian population. So how do we ensure that we're hitting above our numbers, above our waist to get the kind of results that you're speaking about?
Well, there are three things. One is, thankfully, we are well organized. Sometimes when you're inside, you're not so sure, but certainly compared to many other communities, we're organized, with the infrastructure being around the federated system, and Federation CJA in Montreal certainly is the colonne vertebrale. So that to use that structure, that organization, that's the first thing. The second thing is we might be small, but we can be quite vocal. So it's time to continuing being vocal. And the third thing is let's not again forget that those issues that target the Jewish community also target a lot of Canadians. So we might be the canary in the coal mine, but the call for hatred in our streets, or the chaos, the balagan on campus, or all of this, that does not only touch the Jewish community, but also affects Montrealers, Quebecers, and Canadians across the spectrum. And we have people there in other communities and in society in general that are as all that are as annoyed and frustrated as we are, and we have to make sure that they are also engaged on those issues.
You've been touching a lot about communities and allies, but we are, one of our biggest challenges is the silent majority who don't speak. They, if you talk to them one-on-one over coffee or at a cocktail, they're outraged. But to go out there and actually speak about it, they're silenced. And so I'm curious as to one of the things we need to work on during this election is to encourage our friends, our colleagues who we know are outraged to speak about this stuff rather than just, shake their head in horror.
So that should not be only during elections. That should be all the time. Two things. One is I'm very encouraged to see the work that's being done around the Canadian Christian Declaration on Anti-Semitism that's been led by Father Deacon Andrew Bennett from Cardis. 750 Christian clergy sign up to on that letter of allyship with the Jewish community. That's the first thing. The second thing is polling has shown that when the other side blocks streets, causes chaos, support for their cause rightly goes down. And some people might not be the most vocal, but they certainly don't want to see that. And it's our job to remind them that this is the type of issue that they also should push whoever runs in the riding to answer for. Are they okay with this balaghan, with this craziness, with this lawlessness? And if not, what are they going to do about it? So it's for us to push other Canadians, other Quebecers, other Montrealers to engage with the political sector on this. Because yes, we are a small minority. Alone, our power is limited. But at the same time, I think where we stand with our principles and what we stand for, we are part of the majority that does not want to see what's happening now.
So, Richard, as we begin to wrap up this discussion, I think it'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to give a little explanation as what is the role of CJA, of CJPAC? Why do the Federation stay silent when it comes to politics? I think that's something that our listeners need to be cognizant of.
Yeah,
it's a fundamental question. Charitable dollars cannot be used for partisan politics. So Federation CJA is a charitable organization. CJA uses charitable dollars. So we cannot say vote for party X or vote against party Y. So this is something that we cannot do. What we can do is to bring issues in the public square, advocate for on those issues, and have people make up their own mind. So that's for Federation CJA as well as CJA. Now, CJPAC does not work with charitable dollars. It can get involved in partisan politics. It can identify friends and foes. It can work against foes and for friends. That is the reason why CJPAC was created from the get-go. So for people who want to get involved in partisan politics, that's the address. For people who want to get involved on the issues and be aware of the issues that are fundamental to furthering up the Jewish community's interests, that's us. And people knowing where candidates will land on issues A, B, or C, for example, anti-Semitism, repairing the Canada-Israel relationship, and ensuring security. Those are issues that we can bring forward, and that it's for our community to engage with all the political parties.
And finally, if our viewers and listeners would like to follow you, where will they find you, Richard?
Find me at Twitter at Richard Marceau. That's usually the best way to follow me. Feel free to reach out to me, rmarceau@cja.ca as well. I always enjoy getting emails and phone calls. I'm also I live in Montreal at least every weekend, every Shabbat I'm there. So I'm easily found. And I love the Montreal culture scene. So you can find me in many of the restaurants.
I think we need to have Richard back to talk about the Montreal kosher scene at
Yeah,
another
I think
date.
we need to have a restaurant
Restaurant
episode
reviews with
Richard Marceau.
A whole new segment.
Richard, thank you so much. This was really fascinating and insightful, and I think something that we all needed to hear because, like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of with things, as you said, down south going the way it is. I think people were much more set on one way to go, and now there's a lot of confusion. So I think it really helped in terms of what we need to be focusing on and how we use our voices to help our community, no matter which
Thank you
way
for
we
having
go.
me. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. So we're joined in studio now for a fun segment about Purim, where Purim is upon us, and we're joined by Abba Barat. He's the Director of Impact Partnerships and Allocations here at Federation CJA. He's my go-to guy for everything Jewish. Abba, welcome.
Well, the pressure is totally on now, Glenn. Thank you very much.
Welcome, Emma.
Thank you, Paula.
So I invited you in to give us a little bit of a background. It's the Purim season because, you know, our listeners can be listening at any time, but let's learn a little bit about Purim, why it's so much fun, why it's like the kind of, Halloween-esque holiday for the Jews.
See, now Glenn starts it off on the wrong
See,
footing.
I wasn't going to say
because
that.
he's comparing
I wasn't
it to
going to
Jewish
say that.
Halloween. So now we have to go and dispel a couple of things. But essentially,
Tell us.
I think the first thing to understand about Purim is this a kid's holiday or is this a holiday for adults? And it's like drinking from a fire hose. There's so much to understand about this holiday. I consider it my personal favorite holiday from all the Jewish holidays. If this is a holiday to like replace all holidays, I'm there for it. I wanted to run through just a couple of basic points about what this holiday is about, a couple of interesting facts.
Can I just ask one question
Sure.
before we continue? Is it a festival or a holiday?
It's a same deal, festival, holiday.
Is it the same? I thought
Depends how
festival
much
was
you
like
drink.
less, depending how much you drink.
No. So what you're talking about is a distinction between a holiday in which there are certain restrictions of what you can or can't do,
Right.
like Rosh Hashanah or Shabbat or
Right.
Pesach, versus Purim, where it's sort of everything goes,
Okay.
as long as you stick to the basics in terms of what we are obligated to do. So, the story in brief. This goes back to the story. It goes back to approximately the 5th century BCE. It's a story of the Jews in the Persian Empire, and it's the story that's told in the story of the Scroll of Esther in Tanakh about the miracle that happens, the story that happens to the Jewish people. It's quite a famous story. If you want to bring a pop culture reference into it, Glenn, for a second, Ahasuerus, the king Ahasuerus, is most commonly known as Xerxes, the Prince of Persia. And if you really want to make the connection, Zack Snyder's graphic novel 300, which was also made into a movie, that's where he shows up. And it's pretty cool to see one of your biblical characters show up on screen.
No kidding.
In a superhero movie.
300?
Movie
There's a reference to
300?
really?
Incredible violence. It's fantastic. It's actually filmed, I think it's filmed on a studio set somewhere in the Laurentians.
It is, yeah.
It's
It was
a
on, yeah, it was filmed
little
here. Yeah.
factoid. So Xerxes he's what we understand to be King Ahasuerus of the Persian Empire. So to just run us through it over here, I'm going to bounce back and forth between tradition and history a little bit. The name Purim, it comes from the word pur, having to do with the lottery that Haman, the bad guy, basically drew up for when he was going to go wipe out the Jews. Obviously, that went the opposite way.
I should have brought my grugger.
You should have brought your gragger. Yeah. Although we do have Haman Tashma, which we're going to get to talk about in a minute.
It makes noise every time.
Rush.
The basic thing to understand why this is much more why this is our holiday. Out of all of the 24 books in Tanakh, in the Bible, the only book that does not have any mention of God or God's name is the Scroll of Esther, the Book of Esther. And it is the holiday of the Jew in modern times because it's a story of how we have to do it and take care of ourselves without God overtly in the story. So with all the things that we go through as a Jewish people, currently, there are a lot of connections to this holiday. Esther, obviously, she's the one who goes and risks her life. She goes before the king, and she goes and she tells her story. And so she sacrifices. She goes and rallies the troops, rallies the Jewish people, and they go and ultimately save the day. There are 4 key commandments, 4 key mitzvot that we do on the day. One is to the obligation to hear the Megillah being read once a night, once in the morning.
I'll be there.
You'll be there. I'll be there as well. It's a question of how much you could remember from it, depending on how much you're drinking or not. The other has to do with the what we call mishloach manot, giving gifts between between friends and family. Matanat levyonim, giving charity to at least 2 people in need, and having a festive meal. Which, when you think about it, those are 4 packaged things that are really important for any people moving through history, how to take care of each other, how to support each other, how to take care of vulnerable, how to connect to our traditions, and how to celebrate. You need all those components to really successful go anywhere you want to be in this world at whatever century you are in this world. There's a lot more.
How did everybody start dressing up? Tell us about that, because that's the thing that everybody, kids love, kids know about, when celebration and making lots of noise and.
Sure. So the dressing up aspect has to do with two aspects. One has to do with the concept of how Haman's plot was turned on its head from the Hebrew v'nahafachu, that basically we're not supposed to know the difference between blessed is Mordechai and cursed is Haman, but it really mostly has to do with the whole issue about the hidden aspects of Purim, right? That God was hiding, it's about God concealing himself, and we, being a reflection of God, also play around with the concept of us concealing ourselves, who really is our true self when we take off the different masks that we wear at all points in our life. Like I said, it's far more adult than kid, but kids tend to have more fun.
Who's your favorite character?
In Purim?
Absolutely.
That's a good question. It has to be Esther, I guess. Yay!
Right?
And who?
Woman power, Esther.
Although she has the most tragic story, and nobody thinks about this, because when the party's over, when everybody wins, right, and the Jews get to defend themselves and fight back against the people that want to wipe them off the map, the Jews get a chance. They have a rebirth. They go and recommit to their Judaism. They go back to their homes. Life is good. It's the beginning of their shift to going back and rebuilding the Second Temple. It happens a couple of generations later. The only person who doesn't get to go home is who?
Esther.
Mm-hmm.
She's stuck with this yutz of a king, and she never gets to go home. And so the rabbis have a bit of a debate about that. It's something that we, again, adult holiday or kid holiday, the themes are very deep, and there's a lot to unpack. If I just have 2 more minutes.
You do.
I do. I just have 2 minutes.
I love this.
I told you.
Tell us more.
We can keep on going. So first of all, adult or kid, dress up. Lean into this holiday, because we tend to lean into the less fun holidays like Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, right? You got to dress up. You got to see people you don't like in synagogue. It's different. This is
different dress up.
It's a different type of dress up. This gives you permission to cut loose. I was in Jerusalem last year with my family
during Purim,
with my brothers and sisters in Purim. So this was the first Purim after October 7th. And if I told you how electric it was to be there at that time, the music on the streets, the dancing, the fact you couldn't move anywhere in Jerusalem, the streets were literally vibrating with people. It was the most intense, amazing experience of my life, because everybody understood at a deep level what that holiday was supposed to be based on what it is we're going through. And the connective tissue between what we're going through currently, with anti-Semitism, the war in Israel, that ridiculous ICC tribunal that happened a couple months after the war started, which they quoted Netanyahu referring to our commandment to wipe out Amalek, who Haman comes from, right? And they're trying to make this tenuous connection that we are enabling genocide by quoting from the Bible. It's ridiculous. As much as we want to relegate certain things to our history, Amalek as a people, as this group that keeps on trying to ruin our party and destroy us, they never really fully go away through history. It's a recurring thing. As much as we want to spiritualize aspects of it, there are forces like that in this world, and that's what we are ultimately cautioned to fight against, and to stand up for who we are and honor who we are, and push back against a lot of that darkness that Amalek represents. The whole thing about concealment, there's a series of different covers of this song that's played in Israel. There's a song called Afilu Behastara, which is a famous teaching from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov that you can listen on Spotify. You can hear the songs. It was first brought to my attention by a school counselor I work with in Vancouver. She told me that her husband, a highly secular Jew, would listen to this song to inspire him. And it's an incredible song. And the words are, and I'll finish with this and we can chat. It's Rabbi Nachman of Breslov lived a couple centuries ago. This is what he taught. So I'm going to connect it to Purim, and it's fairly obvious. The words go like this: Afilu behastara שבתוך ההסתרה, בוודאי גם שם נמצא השם יתברך. גם מאחורי הדברים הקשים העוברים עליך, אני עומד, אני עומד, אני עומד. Which translates to, even in the concealment, within the concealment, surely there too God is present. And then God says, even behind the difficult things that happen to you, I'm standing, I'm standing, I'm standing. That's what Purim is. That's how we have to believe. That's how we have to believe the world works for us, that we know that as much as we go through things, even if God is hiding, he's not there in the Bible, in the story of Esther, and he's not there overtly. We believe that we can take care of things based on our belief and based on getting together, taking care of each other, supporting each other, pushing back against the darkness, and doing it with joy and celebrating.
Amen.
Wow.
Now, speaking of taking care of,
I love that. Thank you, Ava.
We brought a special bonus visitor into studio with us today because you mentioned Mishlach Manot, or as my grandfather used to say, Shalach Monis. And what would that be without having Hamantash? And so we've invited Alyssa Ansarud in from Zera Cafe. Alyssa, give us the elevator pitch. What is Zera Cafe?
Well, thank you, firstly, for these very relevant thoughts, still relevant for today. Zera Cafe's mission is to employ neurodivergent adults with meaningful work. And we've done surely that this month. We've made many thousand hamantashen to sell to our community, to agencies, to our customers, and all across the city. We have 4 flavors available. If anybody is still interested in buying some, they're available on our website, zeracafe.ca, as well as Real Bagel on Queen Mary.
I'm opening them now. I'm opening them now.
In the cafes in the building, at the Cummings Cafe and at Caffeine at the front. So here we go with a quick taste test.
Okay.
Yum.
Zera Cafe has brought us Hamantash, and everyone's going to grab one.
Hamantash.
Oh, which one? What are the 4 flavors?
I
They're all
brought
the
chocolate
same.
today.
We only got chocolate.
Oh, we only got chocolate.
Just
I'm
grab
going to go for the
chocolate.
chocolate. Okay, here we
Who's
go.
going to say no to chocolate? Are you having? You've had enough.
I'm going to admire all of
That
you
is
eating
so
them, and
good.
it looks...
Let me see.
I have a sweet tooth for Purim, but
So we have to go and just ask the question at this point. Is it prune? Is it poppy filling?
Chocolate.
Is it jam? Is it chocolate? Is it Nutella? Like, what do we all prefer over here?
Oh, I'm Poppy.
You're Poppy? See, I have an
Poppy.
issue with you Poppy people.
What?
Because I think you have less fun as Jews than the prune people.
Impossible.
let's not talk about
I'm
fun
the
with
most
prunes.
fun Jew.
Yeah?
I'm always the most fun Jew in the room.
Because it depends how many poppies you're eating.
Or how many prunes. Anyway, I want to thank you both for coming in. Is it Chag Sameach that we'll wish for Purim?
Purim Sameach.
Purim Sameach.
Purim Sameach.
And we should have that feeling of Sameach every day of the year.
Purim Sameach.
Purim.
Thank you.
This is great. Thank you both
Thank
for coming
you both.
in. Paula, we were saying that missions are back, so we're going to discuss now about a very exciting, unique experience. It's the Yom HaAtzmaut mission, an Israeli Independence Day excursion that will feature and embrace Montreal's Alain and Raquel Look and their daughter Kayla. The Look family will be on their first trip to Israel since the tragic loss of their son Alexandre on October the 7th.
Welcoming Natu Suissa and Raquel Look into studio today. Our listeners are familiar with both of you. We've had the pleasure of welcoming you, or at least Len has had the pleasure of welcoming you onto the podcast. And if you don't know who Natu is, she is Federation CJA's Chief Development Officer. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Raquel, this is going to be your first time to Israel since your son, in honor of your son's memory. And you'll be visiting the Nova Festival site and the bomb shelter where he heroically defended all those people. Tell me a little bit about how that feels, just the thought of going and what you'll be doing and how are you feeling?
It's bittersweet. It's a mix of emotion. And by the way, it's my first time ever in Israel.
Oh.
Wow.
So we were supposed to go last summer because one of Alex's best friends was having his son's bar mitzvah. And before October 7th, one of the last phone calls, Alex said, next summer, you, Kayla, Daddy, I'm bringing you all. Elon just rented the most insane place for the bar mitzvah. And obviously, things changed for the worse, like unimaginable. But his friend kept the promise and had gotten us the tickets. And I have to make Alex's dreams come true. And we were supposed to go last August. And then I wasn't ready. And somehow I couldn't say I don't want to go, but I just was pit in my stomach. it's like Alex protecting me, I think. Wasn't ready, and all of us, and like the flight got canceled because of all the threats from Iran.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't
So you didn't
have to
make a
say
decision.
it was made for me. So, but now it's very different. I feel that we need to do this, and NATU and Federation got us through the worst time in our life, and it only makes sense to have them, supporting us as they've done from the very beginnings. It's a very different feeling right now.
Natu, for those that aren't familiar with the concept of a mission, maybe tell us a little bit about what does that mean as a travel excursion possibility.
So for whoever's never traveled on a mission, it's an incredible experience because literally you just pack your bags and you come and everything is taken care for you. From the second you get to the airport till the second you depart. So the touring, the foods, the experiences, and on top of that, you get to travel with an incredible group of individuals and with shared passions. So it's a real treat to be able to go on a mission. And I think that this trip particularly will be special for all of us. So I feel truly privileged and to be able to go on this journey and spend this time with Raquel and Alain and Kayla. It's very special. It's to share. It's not going to be easy. We know that, and like Raquel said, it's mixed feelings. But to be able to go with them and experience it with them, I feel truly privileged to be able to be able to go with them on this trip.
I'm wondering, Raquel, that you talked about the trip that was canceled for you, but it was a personal trip. This is a different kind of trip, as Natu was explaining. It's very powerful, but it also takes a lot of vulnerability. I've watched you speak, and you're very vulnerable when you share and you speak, and this is a whole other level of vulnerability. What are you hoping that other people, you're doing it, you're not doing it for you, you're doing it for yourself and the community.
And for Alex.
And for Alex. And so what are you hoping people will take away from it? Because missions are very powerful in and of themselves. This one is an elevated mission. What are you hoping that people will take from it?
Well, already our community is exceptional, so hopefully they'll take away, it's very personal to all of us here. But more importantly also, I want to get the Israel piece that they don't know enough about what Alex and what he did. And this is the piece I find has been missing, and it needs to be filled. So hopefully us going, and especially Yom HaZikaron, I mean, I always get the chills when I would see on video when everything stops. And now it has a whole other level of meaning for me. So
Yom HaZikaron meaning Remembrance Day
Exactly.
for fallen soldiers and those who have perished at violence and terrorism,
exactly.
which happens immediately preceding Yom Ha'atzmaut or
Yes,
Independence
exactly.
Day. A very unique kind of
Exactly.
commemoration and celebration anywhere in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's if you haven't. I was there when I was younger, and it is remarkable to just watch the entire country stop.
Yeah,
and it gives us
chills talking about it right
exactly,
now,
I was just going to say that.
But it's very special to
And
who
it's
we
very-
are as a people because
Yes.
we can go from deep sadness and deep trauma and mourning, and then we need to go to celebration because that's who we are as a people. We're resilient, we're strong, and we'll focus always on the positive. And I'm hoping that this trip will be like that. And it's Raquel's first time too, so I want her to see the beauty
Spectacular, yeah.
of Israel. And I think Alex, more than anything,
Yeah.
he loved Israel
Oh my God.
so much, so much that he would want his mom to see the beauty
Yeah, and
of
the
Israel,
joy
so-
in
and the
Israel.
joy.
Exactly. He loved Israel. He loved.
Yeah.
So his mom and many others. Who's the intended audience for such a mission?
Anybody, many people have not been to Israel since October 7th. It's an opportunity for them to come. It's an opportunity for people that have never been as well. When there's first-timers, we can organize separate things for them as first-timers. We will be going to the south to see exactly, retrace Alex's steps. I mean, last year we did it as well, and we FaceTimed with Raquel and when we did Kaddish at the Nova and but it's also an opportunity. We will be going to the north as well to see how we're investing in rebuilding the north, and see Federation's investments there as well.
So it's resilience too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming back.
And a mission is typically a mixed bag of emotion. It's the lowest of lows, but it's the highest of highs at the same time. And I think given that the theme is also Yom Ha'atzmaut, this is, I mean, we're always looking for a cause for celebration. We need it so desperately to celebrate something. And you know, a year and a half past October 7th and past the collective tragedy of the nation, to be able to still stand as a people, as Montrealers in Israel on Yom Ha'atzmaut is extraordinary.
And we'll be joining other communities from all over the world to celebrate Yom Ha'atzmaut. So,
Raquel, what's the message you want to put out there to families who are listening, people who are listening, going, "Oh, I've never been to Israel too. Is this the right mission for me?" Like, you had to decide this was right for you and your family, and I could tell by the smile that it is right, and I could tell your son is right here with us. What's the message you want to say to people?
It couldn't be, it's the perfect time, and it's our way. Alex has, like as Natu was saying, that's who we are. We are light after darkness. And Alex has already brought so much light. I mean, he already has 2 Sefer Torahs that have been written in his honor. Gorgeous. Like, they look like him. They're like a gladiator Torah. He has to fill in boxes in people's places of business. They're doing that mitzvah in his honor. There's been the 4 Shelters
in
Federation
Israel, which we'll visit as well.
built with a plaque. It goes on and on. People just coming, what can I do? And he helped me with this. And a green space named in his honor between Bialik and Chabad of Côte Saint Luc. And it just doesn't stop. He is just shining so bright. We feel him in all of these things, and I think he says, "Okay, now, Mom, you're ready. You guys are ready."
And what do you want other people to take from it? Other Montrealers who are going to join you on this mission?
That they're going to be sharing, as you said, the most intimate of moments. It's hard to even know how we'll react when we get to the shelter, where I was on the phone with him till the unimaginable happened. I don't even know how we're going to, but to share in this moment, and it's, I believe, going to be an unforgettable kind of moment. All of it, the good and the hard. Something we'll remember forever.
It was an incredible person, and I think anybody traveling, coming with us on this journey, will understand and will pay our respects in his memory, and will be able to understand what a hero, what a warrior, you know, what he did. And to me, that's the most important thing, and to be able to travel with his family and do that. And yes, we will celebrate Yom Ha'atzmaut, and yes, we will go and travel and see the beautiful country and see all Israelis. But at the end of the day, it's really to be able to go and pay our respect and honor to an incredible, incredible person.
A hero from Montreal, your son.
And all the details are on our website at federationcja.org. We've
Just
got
click on missions.
on missions right at the right on the front page.
Yeah. It was a pleasure having you both. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for coming to share your heart and share this mission with our community.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natu. Glenn, that was such an amazing interview.
Incredible. And I must emphasize, there's nothing like a mission.
I wanted to touch on that because I've never been on a mission. I've been to Israel so many times, but to me, a mission, I don't know, sometimes it sounds like really interesting. After this interview, I'm pulled towards it. But you've been on many, so tell us what makes it so special.
I've been on so many missions to Israel, and I must say it's unlike any other kind of travel. It's not just a trip. It's not just an excursion. It really is a group of people, a community that comes together and experiences highs and lows, as we talked about with Raquel, together. Experiences it, shares it, talks about it, and really is supported in a way that's unlike other experiences. I so enjoyed those experiences before, and I so recommend it to people who have either yet to experience Israel or perhaps have yet to experience a mission.
Right. And this one is coming up. Tell us about the dates.
So it's April 28th to May 5th. And we mentioned all the information's on the website. You can certainly call and ask for more information or look up the information. But if you're longing to return to Israel or you haven't yet been there, there's never a better time.
Right, and this one is going to be a particularly special trip.
Absolutely. And Paolo, there's other missions that are going on as well. And now we're going to talk about one that's been put together for the medical community. We're pleased to welcome Dr. Lior Bibas back into studio. I say back because you may recall that we've heard from Dr. Bibas last year when we introduced the AMJQ, the Association des Médecins Juifs de Québec, to our listeners. And that was in episode 20, which, of course, our listeners can tune back on in their favorite podcast app. So welcome to the show, Dr. Bibas.
Thanks, Glenn. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome. Is it okay if we call you Lior?
Yeah, for sure. Please.
Could you just explain to our viewers and our listeners now what your organization? I mean, it's gotten quite a bit of press, and it's quite new. So, can you explain what the organization's called and how did it get started?
Yeah, so we're the Association des Médecins Juifs du Québec, so the Quebec Jewish Physician Association. We go by, in English and French, the same acronym, AMJQ. We formed in November of 2023 after October 7th, because we were hearing, as physicians, we were hearing very early on about issues and challenges, specifically trainees. So as you know, medical training is very long. So we're talking students all the way to residents and fellows, and that they were having challenges in the healthcare workplace. Different types, some people being left out of groups, some people feeling like they didn't have a place anymore. Some people realizing relationships changed very drastically.
In other words,
a lot of things.
Very vocal anti-Semitism is what we're talking about.
Yeah, so the anti-Semitism, discrimination. So we decided, a few of us got together and we said, look, let's try to help these students. But then, it just snowballed into one thing. And we said, let's form a real association. Let's form a real organization that has different facets, that has different tools and ecosystems to work within. So we really created a community of physicians, of trainees, because I think we needed that. I think after October 7th, we needed our own little community. And then we've used that community in order to support our trainees, in order to have a lot of events for our trainees, but also for our members. We've done some mentorship activities. We've had an Israel mission, and we've actually done also a lot of advocacy in Quebec and also in Canada to help fight against Jewish discrimination in healthcare and help promote, healthcare free of any form of discrimination, including anti-Semitism.
So speaking of events, you've got a event coming up for high school and CEGEP students called So You Want to Become a Doctor. So tell us about that.
I think it's called So You Want to Become a Jewish Doctor. So, just a bit, it's really should be taken as a joke, that title, but we're totally serious about the event. So this, we have so many ideas. We just need the manpower to make them go through. And this was an idea that we had last year, but with everything going on, we pushed it on to next year. And really, we feel that as physicians in the Jewish community, our role is also to ensure not only the safety of our trainees, but also the sustainability and the continuity of our own medical community. We know that medicine is an amazing profession. I love my job. I'm crazy busy, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's very challenging to get into medicine, and it's also a lot of people don't know what it's about. It changes. And I'll be honest with you, I got into medicine about 20 years ago, and I have no idea what the process is now. So we asked our trainees, we have a trainee committee, to get together and to organize this event. So most of the people talking will be trainees, so students and residents who had passed the interviews, in the 5-year window. We're going to be a few attending physicians there also to support and answer questions. But really, we wanted to start early and kind of give people who are just thinking about medicine. You don't have to be convinced you want to be a pediatric neurosurgeon to attend. It's really, if it's in the back of your head, or if you're thinking even, should I do health science and CEGEP? This is a kind of event where we're going to kind of demystify the medical process. What's it looking like in Quebec? How many faculties, how many spots, what was the grade? What should you do in order to help your case getting in? What are things kind of you should know about that are kind of the downfalls of medicine? I don't think there are many, but it is a demanding job. But all these things are super important to know. And, it really didn't exist. Like, it's the first time we're doing it. And, when I applied to medicine, I had no idea what it was about. I learn as I go. And we're really here to support the next generation and make sure that they have everything to thrive in that field.
I wanted to ask because recently those Australian nurses at the hospital in Australia have been so much in the news in terms of saying that they were going to kill Jewish patients and Israeli patients. And it so highlights the challenge that Jewish doctors and medical profession is facing, that when you were going to school, it wasn't that kind of challenge, at least not that blatant. Is it something that you focus on in this event? Is it something, there's the obvious stuff about helping kids understand where they want to go in the medical field, but then there's the added element of it's a new reality for Jewish kids going into medicine. It used to be like, oh, you're Jewish, of course you're, there's one doctor in the family. Now it's a completely new reality. And is that something that you're going to be helping them navigate?
Yeah. So first of all, I think there's everyone has different realities. So, like, I didn't grow up with any doctors in my family, and I'm sure there's kids now that don't have any, whereas there's some, that now my kids are going to have like 6, 7 doctors in their family. So things change. But I will agree with you that I really think that regardless of whether they're applying to medicine, I think kids attending university now, it's a different world than even when I attended. I don't consider myself old, but I would say it's a different world. And I, as a father of 3 young children, for me, that's what's given me the drive to contribute so much to community, is that I think what October 7th taught us, and kind of the wave of anti-Semitism that's been really vile in the university network, I think the message I got was that, my kids aren't going to have it as easy as I had. And, what can I do, and what can the community do in order to help them, in order to make things easier and, hopefully get back to how things were or even better. But I agree, it's a different reality. Would I tell people not to apply to medicine in Quebec because of what's going on? No, I would not tell them that. But it's something that we have to be very careful and monitor very closely, and continue to advocate actively, even once the war ends and things will seemingly quiet down. It'll be very important for us to advocate in favor of, anti-Jewish discrimination, and obviously all forms of discrimination have really no place in medicine or beyond.
Lior, before we shift gears and talk about the other reason we've invited you on, tell us when is the event, who it's for, how does one sign up?
So the event is March 18th, which is next Tuesday. It's at CJA. It's on JLive. It's 7:30. But honestly, we've had such I think we sold 150 tickets. Like, we sold the free, but on JLive we record how many tickets, and parents are welcome to come. So you could come listen. We're not guaranteeing that your kid's getting into medicine, but I think it's a good intro and primer into that. And you could get your information on JLive. Just look it up. We also advertise it through all the Jewish high schools. Obviously, there's some Jewish kids that don't go to Jewish high school, so I know CJ is also advertising for that. So hopefully the word is out. But it really seems like it's picking up a lot of steam. And we're looking for, I think it'll be successful. And you know what? And we'll learn, it'll be our first time. We'll ask for feedback after, and we'll maybe do it again in 6 months or in a year, and really try to meet the demands of the community.
Now back to Mission Possible.
Mission Possible. Yeah, we named our this episode Mission Possible because we're talking missions. So you've got a mission going to Israel. Explain to us the importance of this particular mission, and why is it important to go with a group in that capacity?
Yeah, so, well, first of all, before we talk about any missions to Israel, I want to really thank Mandy Gilman, who does such an amazing job of putting these things together. And this is our second mission to Israel. She helped us organize the first one. So last year we went in June. So it was obviously like 9 months after October 7th.
Yeah.
We felt, a small group of us felt the need to go, and we asked CJ and Mandy to help us. And, it was much more last minute than this one. And we were still able to get a group of about 14 healthcare professionals to go. And it was an unbelievable trip. I've been to Israel countless times. My family's Israeli. And for me, it was the most phenomenal trip I've been on because, in the past when I went to Israel as a tourist, you're kind of going to the beach, going to Jerusalem, doing all the tourist stuff, going to nice restaurants. It's fun, but this time we were really able to kind of see not only kind of the impact October 7th has, we visited some of the kibbutzim in the south. We met with soldiers in rehab. We went to army bases, really on the border of Gaza in the middle of the war. And we spoke to soldiers there, which was unbelievable. But we were also able to see the resilience of people. We met hostage families. We met volunteers that started unbelievable organizations to help and to meet the needs of their community. So for us, it was so important to go back after a year because, it was, a lot changed. The country's changed for sure. So for those who haven't been to Israel since October 7th, you really need to go. It's kind of like we're living in history. And sometimes it's important to, when you have the opportunity to witness it first time and kind of like in person, I think it's important to seize that opportunity. So now we're going back. Last year we said, the theme of the trip was kind of like resilience. We were really right after the war. It was very heavy. This time we said, we want to focus on rebuilding. So we're still going to the south, but we're also going to the north because since then there was a big front on the war in the north. We're going to meet people, we're going to meet soldiers, we're going to meet families, we're going to meet people rebuilding the country after the war. And I'm sure it'll even top last year's trip. We're expecting a much bigger group, and I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be an unbelievable trip. And also what we've been doing in the past few trips is building relationships with medical faculties in Israel.
That was actually, that was the question I was about to ask, because how did quickly, because we're running out of time, but I just wanted to ask, is how does it change you? Like as medical professions going into Israel, you see the country, you see the parts that are war torn, you see the post October 7th. How do you come back as doctors and medical professionals in terms of how it impacts the caliber of your craft?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I would say that, seeing the resilience of healthcare professionals in Israel, and when, we visited last year Soroka Hospital and they told us what October 7th looked like and how they were able to manage, the avalanche of victims coming in, of even terrorists coming in, injured, all these things that were happening. When you read, it's really inspirational. How they treat, and then we also visited, we're going to do this again, centers of medical innovation to see that Israel's despite being in a war, despite people, that are called up to the army and have to stop their career, being at the forefront of medical innovation that ultimately helps save lives, regardless of whether you're Israeli or not. It was really inspirational, and it kind of really gave me back energy to come back, not only practice my care, I'm a cardiologist, but also to continue giving back to the Jewish community and continue building relationships between the Montreal Jewish community and the Israeli medical community.
And Lior, maybe just give us, as we wrap up, the dates, some of the information about the trip.
Yeah, so the dates are, it starts Monday morning, May 5th. I think some people come earlier and we could help with the hotel. It's Monday through Friday. Every day is jam-packed. You're leaving the hotel at 7, you're coming back late at night. Amazing dinners, amazing acquaintances. I'm telling you, the relationships you build on this trip within the group and with the people you meet are really life-changing and are historical, and I think it's important as Jews to be part of the history, and at least to support those that are really at the forefront of Jewish history being forged at the moment.
So it's open to medical professionals?
Yeah, look, it's open to medical professionals. I think last year we had spouses that came that were not medical professionals. It isn't a very high level, I would say, you're not learning about advanced treatments of certain diseases. You're really learning, it's everything in the context of the war, psychological care to children and adults after October 7th. We covered a lot of that during the trip. So obviously it's for medical professionals, but if you're a non-medical professional and you're a spouse and you want to join, I think you'll have an amazing time and a really enriching experience.
Okay, and all the information is on our website, federationcja.org. The very top banner says missions. You click on that and it's all there.
Yeah, Lior, thank you so much for coming in and, not coming in, but popping in.
Yeah, thank you so much. Next time I'll try to make it in studio. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Lior.
Have
a nice pleasure. Day. Thanks, Lior.
Chag Sameach too.
Amy Fish is a Montreal author who has published 3 and now 4 nonfiction books. Her newest book is entitled 1 in 6 Million. It's a fascinating story about an 8-month-old baby, Maria, who's found abandoned on the side of the road in Poland, wrapped in a blanket with only her name pinned to her. 1 in 6 Million is the story of how Maria finds her birth family thanks to an intrepid band of international volunteers, genealogical records, and smuggled DNA tests. Amy, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a thrill to have you, and what an amazing story that you're telling.
It's an incredible story.
Yeah, you read it, as I was reading a little bit about it, I was like, is this a novel or is this a nonfiction? It just sounds like such a story that you would write that's a novel based on a true story, but it's fully a true story.
Yeah, truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah, and I'm wondering why you picked the title 1 in 6 million. Obviously, 6 million it means so much to the Jewish community, but why 1 in 6 million? Tell us a little bit about where you got the title from.
Oh, I'm so happy you asked me, because it was a struggle to find the right title, and this title has a lot of meaning. First of all, it's 1 in 6 million because each one of the 6 million who perished in the Holocaust had a whole story behind them, a whole network, a whole family, a whole story. And Maria, who my book is about, survived, but they didn't always know she survived. So she also, too, had a whole story and a whole network behind her. So that's one reason. Another reason is because I think each one of us, as descendants of maybe not Holocaust survivors, but people who escaped before or people who were in another country, as Jewish community members in Montreal, we're one of the 6 million too. Like, this could have happened to any of us. And so I feel like each one is 1 in the 6 million. And then also there was a 1 in 6 million chance that Stanley Diamond was going to be able to help Maria find out who she truly was. In other words, it was like a 1 in a million chance, like a very difficult needle in a haystack kind of problem. So those are my reasons for choosing the title.
So tell us a bit about that Montreal angle, about the genealogical society and that aspect of the book.
The woman in the book is named Maria, and she was always told by her parents that she was found by the side of the road on the day that the Jews in her town were rounded up and put on trains. And she grew up always wondering who she truly was, until the story fell into the hands of Stanley Diamond. And Stanley is a Montrealer who started the Montreal Jewish Genealogical Society, who helped many, many Montrealers from all kinds of backgrounds find their family trees. And he's the hero of 1 in 6 million.
And what coincidence and timing. I bumped into you a short while ago and you told me about the book and about Stanley, and he passed away just a short while ago. So
yeah, we just made it. And it's really, Glenn, for me, I feel like this about it. I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to work with Stanley. And I worked on this project for 6 years. I interviewed Stanley weekly for 2 years.
Wow.
And so I have hundreds of hours of notes and conversations with Stanley and all the documents he provided. And he lived to know that the book was going to happen. He wrote the foreword for the book. And so that was all super lucky. But at the same time, I'm sad that he didn't get to actually hold it in his hands.
Yeah,
that propelled me through some of the really, hard, grindy hours of writing a book. Was like, oh, but I'm going to give this to Stanley, and he's going to know that his legacy made it. And so I was really sad that we were so close.
Where did you actually find this story? This is it's not, you don't read about it. You don't just happen upon it, or was it just a small thing in a paper? Where did you get the idea? Where did you find the story?
Because my other books are all about complaining and how to be a good complainer, and they're funny. So I was as surprised as anyone else that I ended up going down this rabbit hole that took me 6 years, like I said, of research. And I met Stanley at a Shiva.
Wow.
Another Montreal thing, because Montrealers, we go to Shivas.
Yeah.
We support each other in this community. And I just got to talking with this gentleman that I had never met. And he told me that he was a genealogist. And I said, can you give me an example of a success story? And he gave me this example. And I thought about it all night. All night. I was like, I got to write this. And I phoned him the next day. I looked it up and we connected. We went to Starbucks on Queen Mary.
Amy, do you feel a personal connection with your own family story, your own history, your own background? How do you feel connected to the story about Maria?
I have two very profound connections to the story. One is 1 in 6 million is in a lot of ways a love letter to Montreal, because I talk about how Stanley grew up in Montreal and, the Bagel Bakery and Willingdon School and different aspects of Montreal that were important to him in his history that were also important to me in my history. He grew up at Shar Zion. My husband was president of Shar Zion. So I have a lot of personal connections to some of the facts in the story, but also I am related to Stanley. We are his grandmother and my great grandmother were sisters, which is how we ended up at the same Shiva. And Stanley, at the end of the book, ends up that he is related to Maria, this woman from Siberia.
You're kidding?
Yes. No.
So are you related to
crazy.
Maria? So you're related to Maria.
The thing is, we don't know how we're related, but the way DNA testing works is there's a particular DNA test called mitochondrial DNA that could tell you that you're related on your mother's line, but you don't know how far back on your mother's line.
Okay.
And so because Stanley and I are related on our mother lines, and because Stanley's related to Maria on their mother lines, we sort of know that we're descended from the same common ancestor, but it might be a common ancestor that all Ashkenazi Jews are descended from. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So we're related, but small are related.
Interesting.
I'm wondering, you said you got home from the Shiva and you thought about it all night and you said, I have to, like, it was almost like a calling. You were pulled to write this book.
Yes.
What is it?
Yes.
Other than the story, obviously, is fascinating, but what was it that took you from writing books about complaining to really tackling this huge challenge and saying, I'm meant to write this book?
Because so many people, when darkness happens, wring our hands and say there's nothing we could do. And this is a story about persistence and about resilience and about bringing light into the world, because Stanley dedicated his entire life to helping people find their family trees and helping them find who they really were, including Holocaust survivors. And he had no interest or relationship. He didn't know Maria from anything. This was a Facebook post, I think. At the beginning, or a post on a Jewish genealogical website. And I just wanted everybody, all of us, to be inspired and to be motivated by heroes like Stanley. And that is why I was so drawn to the book. It was decades and decades, 7 decades after the end of the Holocaust, that Stanley helped her find out who she truly was. Think about that.
Wow.
And now, what do people do when things are grim? They post on social media and they complain to each other. But what could we be doing? What are the mitzvot that we could be doing? What are the community things that we could be doing? Where can we put our energy and our time to bring light and to bring good into the world like Stanley Diamond did in this Maria story, 1 in 6 million?
Isn't that fantastic?
Amy, we're recording this a few weeks before you actually launched the book. Tell us a little bit about the launch itself.
I am very excited to tell you that Cummings Center is hosting a launch for 1 in 6 million on Thursday, April 3rd at 5 p.m. It's going to be at the Gelber Center. Everybody who comes is getting a copy of the book that I'm going to sign. And we just had a donor come forward and actually invite the Montreal Holocaust Survivors Group to attend. And so we have tickets put aside for close to 20 Holocaust survivors that are going to be with us at the event. So it's going to be really, really special.
That's very exciting.
It's very
The
exciting.
book is out and will be available in great bookstores and online everywhere, I imagine. And
Absolutely.
our listeners and viewers now can come and meet the author on April the 3rd.
Yeah, congratulations, Amy. This is
Thank
a
you.
fantastic, it's an amazing accomplishment and it's just a spectacular. I'm inspired just hearing you talk about it, and just seeing you light up when you talk about it is inspirational. So
Thank you.
Thank you so
Congrats.
much, Amy.
it was great
Thank
to
you.
chat,
Thank
Amy.
you very much.
1
Thanks
in
for
6
having me.
million. We're switching now from books to plays. A new play at the Siegel Center called Pain to Power, a Kanye West musical protest, is playing this month. And it's interesting because it focuses on how Kanye West's very open, very loud Jew hatred has negatively impacted both Jewish and Black communities. And with us to talk about this new play and its message is Siegel Center Artistic Director Lisa Rubin. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. I'm wondering this. In a time when, after the Super Bowl, many of us don't even want to say Kanye West's name, you made a decision to bring this play to the Siegel Center. And I saw that there's a whole bunch of FAQs there because you're prepared for the onslaught of pushback. Why did you say yes to this?
Great question. Actually, I programmed this play a year ago. This play was created the first time he started his shenanigans. And so this was set for a year. I am, first of all, not a fan of canceling art, period. I know it's very triggering, but without really understanding the message and what's behind it, we can't cancel these incredible artists or the message that they're trying to do, even if it's not for everybody. The fact that the timing of it, that he started up again, that is the unreal. I know it looks like, I just did this, but it was actually a year ago.
Right.
So that's the origin story of it, actually.
And have you gotten pushback? Because you've got a whole list of FAQs, and if you're sensitive to this, and if you're there's a whole bunch of warnings on there.
I think if we've learned anything in the last year and a half, we jump to conclusions very quickly. Right. So we did know that, and it's what he's done has been so painful that I think this idea that we can be platforming him can be upsetting.
Right.
And that may still be true for many, and then it's not for them. But there is a generation, a younger generation that grew up with his music, like CJ and Seth.
Yeah.
There is a generation that are facing anti-Semitism every day, as we know, on campuses.
Yeah.
They need a space where they can be seen, where they can be heard, where they can heal. And that's what the show is about. The show is actually about, in the face of this, what do we do? What do these young people do? They turned their rage, their disappointment, their sadness into art. And I think if we can use art to confront these things and have these conversations, that's the amazing thing about it. I'm not doing it the show isn't to provoke. The show isn't a tribute. The show is truly where do we go from here? And I think it's going to be quite validating for many to feel seen and to feel heard. And I think to look to CJ and Seth, one who's Jewish and one who's Black, about not only how they deal with it in their own cultural heartbreak, but how they support each other. I think that's my favorite thing about the show, actually.
It's the bringing together of the two communities.
Yes, and that we can see each other and be there for each other in our times of crisis. It's the Winnipeg Jewish Theater. They're a wonderful company in Winnipeg led by Dan Petrenko. And Dan came up with this idea, and together with Tracy Aaron Smith, who's also very involved in creating the show, and then brought together two great artists. They do not live in Winnipeg.
Okay.
One of them is Seth Zosky, who you saw as Jack Dawson in Titanic. So from Titanic to Pain to Power, and Seth and CJ met at Sheridan, which is a musical theater school in Toronto. And they quickly discovered, they went to theater school together. You very quickly form bonds, but they also discovered their deep love of Kanye and how it shaped both of their childhoods musically.
Wow.
I mean, this is for those of us who aren't into rap music, I certainly can't, I was I don't know any of these songs, talk to me about musical theater. But for them, it really shaped them. So I think going through what he did when he started with the anti-Semitism and the anti-Black slavery stuff, they went through that together, and they really were there for each other. They were there for each other through Black Lives Matter. That was really tough on CJ. And Seth was actually in Israel on October 7th.
Wow.
And CJ was a friend to him throughout there. So there's so much around friendship, and there's so much about art and how they handle this together. So the Winnipeg Jewish Theatre is where the show first started, and now we're very, very proud to do the next production. They've added to it. They've brought it up to date. They've incorporated everything that's like happened in the now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so it's a kind of a living, breathing thing. And then they're from Montreal. It's going to be in Toronto.
And it sounds like you're pushing the boundaries beyond the typical audiences that you would normally expect at the Seagull.
Yeah, this is in the studio theater, and it's very much like a concert. Like, in fact, we have a Saturday night 10 p.m. show. I'm trying to conjure the Purim gods and like get all those like kids who go out to
come watch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled. Bialik High School, all of grade 11 is coming. And, again, like that conversation with Bialik, like the kids need to be exposed to these conversations. It's their reality.
Yeah.
Maybe different depending on what generation you are, but it's their reality, and I think it's going to be great. Yeah.
It's funny you should say that it's their reality, because just before, at the beginning, like you said, when Kanye was outwardly anti-Semitic, but not, if you compare it to now, it was nothing. I had a whole bunch of guys in my kitchen who were, this is my nephew, my son, and all their friends in their early 20s, late teens. And they were arguing with me saying, it's the art, not the artist. It's the art. Don't be so hard on Kanye. And then he exploded. And then they are like, okay, we changed our mind.
Yeah.
We're no longer supported. They won't listen to his music at all. But like you said, they're heartbroken. Like he really spoke to all of them. And quite frankly, sometimes I listen to his music. My son's like, hello, it's Kanye. I'm like, it is? Oh, yeah. Stop,
It's funny because you started by saying, I don't even like to mention his name. And then Lisa said, well, we ought not to cancel culture either. So it really is an interesting mix and a dilemma as to what do you do to face the reality and to challenge these issues head on. And not shy away from it.
And there's a fine line. Like if I was doing a Kanye concert, I would have canceled it.
Yes.
This is not that.
Right.
These are two kids reclaiming and resisting and showing and taking back what Kanye has thrown at them and bringing their cultures to the forefront and saying, Jewish, Black, we're here.
Right.
That's what this is about.
And to me, the beautiful side gift of all of this is bringing the two communities together.
Yes.
Right? Because it's been, we've been talking about this a lot. Like, how do Black communities help the Jewish communities? How do you navigate this thing of what you think you know, what you don't, all of it. So I think just that, speaking to that, to me, that's the first thing I saw when I saw this play.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's also like about celebrity culture in general, because was it your nephew?
My son and my nephew.
Your son and your nephew who said that. But we can all think of an artist, I'm sure, that we are not proud of.
Right.
Their maybe personal behavior. We can all think of politicians. And yet, do we still listen to this music? Do we still watch these movies? It's a very subjective thing that we all have to wrestle with. And some people will, it's hard because we all have our reasons of why we keep listening or keep reading or keep watching. But the influence on celebrity culture and what happens when they do things the way Kanye behaved, I think is a question that we could talk about, not just for Kanye, but when others do it too, especially in this age where people are so influenced by what they see and read and take what these celebrities may say is the truth.
So before we run out of time, let's get a little detail as to when it's coming and where to get tickets.
And when is that 10 o'clock show?
Okay. Well, so like you said, it's not typical for the Seagulls. It's not part of our season. It's a very special event that we're doing March 19th to March 23rd. I would say if whoever's listening, I hope it's not sold out by the time you hear this and want to get your tickets. But if it is sold out, just come anyway. Like we always have extra seats. So it's only for a week. On Sunday, we do have a 2 p.m. and a 5 p.m. show, which is kind of cool, 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. Yep. And the Saturday night is the 10 p.m. late show. So I would just encourage anybody 18 to 25, encourage them to go. I know in Winnipeg, anyone older loved it. Like that's the normal theater going audience age.
Right.
But I think, like we're working really, really hard. Oh, and I just want to say too, this is in association with Black Theater Workshop.
I was going to say that.
So not only is it in the show, but 2 theater companies in Montreal are also coming together. They've been an incredible partner. We're working on bringing groups together, promoting the show together. So I'm really
tickets
happy
available
about that.
at
SiegelCenter.org.
SiegelCenter.org.
Yeah.
Excellent. See you at the center.
Lisa, thank you so much for coming in and sharing. This is an amazing project.
Thank you for having me.
Good luck. Yeah, break a leg.
Thanks.
And one more thing from your ear.
There's what we're doing to fight anti-Semitism against those who hate us. But part of what we need to do is create stronger Jews. We need to have stronger Jews because stronger Jews don't provide a vacuum for it to be filled by haters. And one of the things that we recognized very, very early during this crisis is that our Jewish school graduates were ill-prepared to talk about Israel. They were not able to talk about where Israel is vis-a-vis the Palestinians, when Israel left Gaza, what happened during the Nakba. And by the way, what about Jews from Arab lands that have been displaced and never even thought about in the world? We only talk about the plight of the Palestinian refugees. What about the plight of Jewish refugees from Arab lands?
1 million.
1 million. And today would be how many? Right? We know we're saying 1 million. It was 1 million when they were kicked out 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Yeah. What about today? So we need to change things. And the first thing we actually invested in is to actually draft a leading edge, brand new curriculum of how to teach Israel in the context of Middle East studies from elementary school to high school, grade 1 through grade 11. We need to teach it differently. We need to build up the knowledge base so that when kids graduate, they can proudly and confidently affect change by saying, this is my facts. You can have your facts, but these are my facts and they're irrefutable. And by the way, like I said, Israel's made mistakes. We need to acknowledge those mistakes. And doesn't mean that we don't have a right to exist. Doesn't mean that you can attack us. Doesn't mean that Israel is the demon of the world. Their ability to have that conversation in an intelligent and articulate manner will also change the dynamic on campuses, will change the dynamic in every respect, because you know that when we teach students, we also teach parents. That's the one of the investments that we're making. So when we talk about the investments we're making to combat anti-Semitism, is not only to confront what's out there, but also to build stronger Jews who will be able to stand up for themselves and have a conversation.
So, Glenn, we've just wrapped up our first podcast in front of cameras. How did that feel?
Well, you broadcasters, you, Paula, or Mitsumi, they know where to look. I didn't know where to look, but I hope our viewers and our listeners will enjoy the content of those that we interviewed.
Oh, I think you're too hard on yourself. I think you did great. And it's the first of many, so we're really excited that this, again, you can listen to it on your favorite podcast app.
Exactly.
And watch it on YouTube.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Technical production by Bruno Vargas.
Hillary Cohen on social media, and I'm Paula Samuel.
For the Federation CJ 360 podcast, I'm Glenn J. Nashin.
Thanks for listening. To find out more about the work we do at Federation CJA, the impact we have on the Montreal Jewish community in Israel and around the world, visit us at federationcja.org, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Until next time, shalom.